Well, tonight we're looking at the scandal and speculation courtesy the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission's renewed appetite for old cases. Former governors Orji, Kalu, and Goje, along with former ministers like Timipre Sylva, feeling the heat as the anti-corruption agency opens or reopens investigations into alleged multi-billion-naira scams. You also have the likes of Peter Odli, former governor of Rivers State, and several others. Now, is this a genuine pursuit of justice, or is this a politically motivated witch hunt? Let's get the answers straight from our guest tonight. He's an expert, of course, on this issue. We want to say a very good evening to our guest who is joining us via video link. Curtis Adigba is a public affairs analyst. He's in New Jersey in the United States of America. Curtis, it's good to have you on the Politics HQ tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right. As far as the legal aspect of things are concerned, and as far as you can tell, some of these, governors and former ministers have, let's start with the governors, have what they call immunity, perpetual immunity. In the case of River State, what the former governor had was termed a perpetual immunity from prosecution by the EFCC, not just him, those who work in the governor's office right there in River State. Can the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Nigeria's anti-corruption watchdog, legally reopen long-closed cases such as this? And if they can, what are the potential challenges that they will face, in securing the convictions against these individuals?
Well, thank you. First and foremost, I think Nigerians need to know that there is nothing called permanent immunity, right? The Nigerian Constitution, of course, did grant immunity to serving governors, their deputies, and the president and the vice president, the discharge of their constitutional responsibilities. And once they are outside of that office, they do not enjoy any other form of immunity, I think in the case of Odele, it was a high court judge that made the order, and rightly that order has been set aside, and he's going to be pursued. But beyond that, I think I need to make it clear that, the periodic EFCC arrests and arraignment of key current or political or ex-political leaders is just another movie. This is a movie we have seen before. This is a movie that is being reenacted periodically for Nigerians to see. And that is because, as you know, the EFCC itself as a body does not have the right appetite to prosecute and indeed convict these people. You also find out that majority of Nigerians are also not opposed to corruption. In fact, if I'm allowed to say this, I would tell you that what we are opposed to is us not being the beneficiaries of the corrupt practices. So this is not going to change anything. The people that you have mentioned, some of the people you have mentioned, Theodore, Orji, of course, stopped being a governor for over 10 years. And within this period, they didn't have immunity. So what has happened to him? Nothing. Orji Kalu, of course, was found guilty of corruption and was sentenced and was sent to jail. But the Supreme Court relied on technicality and set him free, or asked that the trial should commence all over de novo from the lower court. And then don't forget that we also have a judgment of the Supreme Court that former governors or governors of their states can only be prosecuted or investigated and prosecuted by the House of Assemblies. So when you put all this together, you will find out that there is actually no appetite to fight corruption. And not until we fight corruption in the country is not going to move forward. Because you see, we don't really have, we are not only challenged in terms of insufficient funds. We are challenged by low utility of the funds that are even available, because the chunk of it are stolen. The chunk of it is always stolen. Look at the current investigation of the scandal that just broke. If it wasn't for the fact that the Accountant General resisted the move to have the funds transferred, what you will hear is that 3 billion had been approved for social purpose, but the reality would be that not even up to 10% or 20% of that fund will go into that purpose. So why it is important that we fight corruption, I don't see success ahead of us.
All right, you sound pretty pessimistic there.
But I'll tell you why.
But we have a new man in charge of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. His name is Ola Olukoyede. Who was
not new.
Well, when you say he's not new, he was recently put there.
He was the secretary of the same organization.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Curtis. But he is a newly appointed head of the agency, and you know that. Yes. Now he has a chance to do what he wants to do, to put his agenda, to work. Don't you think we should give Ola Olukoyede a chance to show what he can do? Because the EFCC of Ola Olukoyede is not the EFCC of Farida Waziri. Neither is it the EFCC of all those who were there before him. I'm not particular about Farida Waziri, just that she was one of those who was there before. So shouldn't we give him...
What about Ribadu?
Ribadu, of course. Ribadu. And everyone. It is a different name. He's not Ribadu. Neither is he Ola Olukoyede. Sorry, neither is it Farida Waziri. He's Ola Olukoyede. So it's a new start.
With you. I think it deserves his time in the sun. But whether he'll be able to change anything significantly is what I'm telling you that is doubtful. Okay? Apart from the fact that it's not entirely new to the system, one of the things that he has to battle with is the fact that the EFCC as an organization is not seen by many people to be a clean organization fighting corruption. You have a lot of corruption within the EFCC. Now, look at the case of Magu, for instance, that the federal government had to suspend him and then order a probe into his activities. Up to now, do we have an outcome? Do Nigerians know exactly what happened in the case of Magu? And then there have been allegations by powerful individuals saying that they bribed the EFCC too. Listen, I am not saying that the EFCC is not capable of fighting corruption, but I'm simply saying that the way the EFCC is constituted now, tied to the apron strings of the political leaders, EFCC cannot do much. And you said that I sounded pessimistic. Let me explain to you why. Since we started the war on corruption, how many of the governors have we as the EFCC succeeded in convicting? Maybe 2, right? Former Governor Jolly Nyame of Taraba State, and then Dario of Plateau State. Of course, at some point, the president had to give them some form of...
That was a question I was going to ask you, and you just dovetailed very nicely. Is it because of a lack of evidence? You talked about Jolly Nyame and Joshua Dare, who were both given presidential pardons. Is it because of a lack of evidence? That's why we're seeing a low conviction rate as far as these other governors are concerned. How strong is the evidence against these high-profile individuals?
You see, when it concerns top political leaders, it becomes very complicated. Now, the same EFCC that has been accused of doing shoddy job when it comes to the political gladiators, the EFCC, the same organization, has got over 90% success rate in convicting Yahoo boys and other criminals. So you begin to wonder, why is the record of the EFCC so poor when it comes to political actors and gladiators? It's simply because the body has currently constituted answers to some political godfathers in the system. That's one. The second thing is that when it has to do with these guys, they have a lot of money at their disposal. Some of them can go ahead and bribe judges through their lawyers. They can hire the finest lawyers in the country, and they have a way of wriggling the system. And then they also have a critical mass of our people behind them. As you understand, corruption in Nigeria is either a northerner or a southerner. And when you drill further, you will find that he's either a Yoruba man, an Igbo, an Hausa, a Yoruba, an Idoma, Ijo, and all kind of people. Why? Why do I say so? Because we tend to believe that a corrupt man from my own place is good. but the corrupt man from another person's tribe is bad. In other words, our own corrupt person is good, and the other person's corrupt person is bad. So when someone is accused of corruption, you are going to hear from certain part of the country, oh, is it because he's a minority? Or is it because he's a Christian? Or is it because he's a Muslim? Or is it the only one that is guilty of corruption? You understand what I'm saying? We rationalize and make excuses for corruption. So it gets to a point that even those in government who are intended to fight corruption, we look around and say, look, these people are not serious about corruption. Why do I want to expend my political capital?
Interesting, very interesting, and you landed quite perfectly there. Curtis Adigba, I have more questions for you. We'll go for a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with our look at this issue of corruption or the fight against corruption right here on Politics HQ. Stay with us. Welcome back. Curtis Adigba, as public affairs analyst, joining us via video link from New Jersey in the United States of America. Of course, they're looking today at the renewed fight against corruption by Nigeria's anti-corruption watchdog, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And of course, it seems that they are reopening the cases, corruption cases of some former ministers and governors right here in the Nigerian government. Sources say the EFCC chairman, Goje, is ready to review the case files, which have been abandoned over the years by successive or previous chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Of course, we have notable governors there, the likes of Chairman Namani of Enugu State. We have also Sullivan Chime, former governor of Enugu State. We have the likes of Kaide Fahimi, former governor of Enugu State. Ayo Fayose is also rumored to be in there, former governor of Ekiti State. I'm sorry, the last two names I mentioned. We have former Nasarawa State Governor Abdullahi Adamu, former Abia State Governors Theodore Orji and Orji Uzokalu also in there as well. Former Governor of Gombe State Danjuma Goje, former Sokoto State Governor Aliu Wamako. We have former Bayelsa State Governor Timipre Sylva and former Jigawa State Governor Suell, amongst others, whose names are rumored to be part of those whose files will be dusted up. I think the dust, Olawolukode has to wear a mask, so that the dust will not send him to the hospital. How much are we looking at? Such a huge amount of money involved in all of this, and of course, each person has an amount of money they are rumored to have been to be investigated for. For instance, we have Nnamani, former governor of Enugu State, from 1999, who is was being investigated over alleged 5.3 billion naira fraud. His successor, Sullivan Chime, has a 450 million naira campaign fraud as part of the 23 billion naira allegedly, I must stress, shared by former Petroleum Resources Minister Diezeni Alison Madueke. The others have various amounts. 4 billion naira for Kaide Fahimi. We have 6.9 billion naira for his predecessor, Ayodele Fayose. We have 15 billion naira for former Nasarawa State Governor Adamu. We have Theodore Orji, 551 billion naira. Well, these are all allegations, but that's a lot of money. 551 billion naira. We have Orji Uzokalu, also about 7 billion naira. All these are investigations, and none of them have been convicted for those amounts of money. Danjuma Goje has 5 billion naira fraud allegation. Wamako, 15 billion naira. Sylva, 19.2 billion naira. Lamido, 1.35 billion naira. Various sums. You can do the math yourself. I want to go back to Curtis Adigba. You were telling me that I asked, of course, why we have had no conviction of any of these individuals, and you're saying it's asked if it was because of lack of evidence. But could it also be because there's really no, like I said, lack of evidence. There's no case against these individuals. The penchant is for us to just automatically think and assume that every politician is corrupt, but not all of them are. Some of them are very brilliant minds whom we can never catch in any corrupt act. So, what about that? The fact that there's nothing to hold these guys over.
why are the files gathering dust that to look out they will need to use a nose mask? Was it for lack of evidence or for lack of political courage to move forward with these cases? Now, the names you mentioned, Nnamani Chimaroke was governor from 1999 to 2007. Where is Nnamani today? I mean, until recently, Nnamani was in the Senate. Abula Adamu, the former governor of Nasarawa State, 1999 to 2007, was also a senator, and then he went ahead to become the leader of the ruling party, that's the national chairman of APC. Danjuma Goje has been in the Senate. Wamako is in the Senate. Timipre Sylva, of course, was under investigation before he was appointed as Minister of State for Petroleum. So when you look at all this, you don't look, the people you are probing or investigating for corruption, the system keeps promoting them to higher positions in the same government. How are you going to find the courage and the evidence to prosecute them? And even when you have the evidence, how are you going to get successful conviction?
But isn't this evidence of the fact that, Curtis, that because most of these guys are now in the APC. At that time, there was no APC, but now they are associated with the ruling party, All Progressives Congress. Sylva was a governorship candidate in the recent Bayelsa governorship election, APC. Abdullahi Adamu was the national chairman of APC until Tinubu decided that needed someone else to work with him, etc., etc. Orji, of course, moved over to the APC. He's been in the Senate.
Yes.
From the PDP. Mm-hmm. Chimaroke Nnamani, even though he was in the PDP, had been campaigning for Bola Tinubu during the presidential campaign. I need to check if he had moved to the APC, not sure. But isn't this evidence of the fact that President Bola Tinubu and the executive in Nigeria, basically, the establishment isn't interfering in the affairs of the EFCC? That finally we have a truly independent EFCC who, despite the affiliation of these individuals and the whole "your sins are forgiven" thing we used to hear before, saying there is no sin that is forgiven. Everybody's sin will be put on the table.
So that's why I said this is a movie we have watched before. Now, when you are talking about about a body that is truly independent, right? Then you won't even make reference to the fact that there is the possibility of political interference in the process of that body doing its work. Who appointed the EFCC chairman? Is it not the president? Who can remove the EFCC chairman? Is it not the president? Is the EFCC truly independent in its operations and in its constitution? So you're talking about the fact that even before President Tinubu, we heard about how during the time of President Obasanjo, the then EFCC chairman was used against political opponents of the president. And that is not to say that they had no cases of corruption, but the mere fact that the president can direct the EFCC chairman to go against certain political leaders meant that the EFCC can also be told not to pursue a particular individual. And this is the point that I'm making. So you find out that the reason why politicians are moving from their parties to another party, especially the ruling party, is because they have this sense, this mindset that, okay, if we actually correctly politically aligned, we might get soft landing. And we've been seeing that happening in our country. That's not new. That didn't start with President Tinubu, and it probably went with him. But the fact is that the system has no deterrence for corruption.
So before we go, I'm so sorry to interject here, but Curtis, before we go, you're saying that all of this is nothing new about this. You've seen it before. It's not a welcome return.
This is not a new movie.
You're saying it's not even a welcome return to accountability, but probably a time move, some sort of movie that's playing out. Maybe.
Do you want me to be a record so you can quote me?
Yes, please go on.
Nothing will come out of it.
Okay.
Listen to me. You recall that the former governor of Delta State had 32 charges preferred against him in a federal high court, right? He was discharged on all the 32 charges. But when he escaped to London, fearing persecution from the then president, Jonathan, and he was arrested in London on only 2 count charges or 3 count charges, he was found guilty and jailed. He's back in the country. So we are not serious with corruption.
What needs to be done to put the EFCC in a right, position to perform optimally? Since you're saying nothing will come out of this.
So you have to detach the EFCC from political interference. In other words, make them truly independent. We're talking about countries in the western part of the world where a sitting president and the son of the sitting president is being prosecuted right now. I hope you know that, Hunter Biden. Even when Trump was president, the system was going against him. These are people who are truly independent. These are people whose institutions have been secured.
Okay, so you're saying that the powers of a president over the EFCC should be taken away?
Yes.
All right, Curtis.
Because you see, yeah. if the president can hire and fire the EFCC chairman easily,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he sees his appointment as a favor from the president, he will not go after those that are friends of the president or those that the president will say, give them soft landing.
All right, Curtis Adigba, I'm afraid we have to leave it at that. And of course, you've given us some quite interesting analysis and you spoke your truth. I want to thank you so very kindly for your time. Let's see where this case goes. Maybe you might be proven wrong. You've been on record, you're saying nothing will come out of this.
I will pay you everything you want if I'm proven wrong. All right. Nothing is going to come out.
Let's agree you're paying me in USD. That's what we're here to agree on live TV.
Whatever you want.
You have a deal?
This is just hot. No problem. This is just hot air balloon that just...
Curtis Adigba has promised to pay me what I want in USD if the EFCC goes ahead with this threat to...
and secure convictions.
Yes, convict these governors, at least one of them. Curtis Adigba is a public affairs...
They will succeed, but not against politicians.
Curtis Adigba is a public affairs analyst. He joined us from New Jersey in the United States of America. Curtis, thank you very much. When we come back, we'll look at what's happening in Rivers State and, of course, the polity that stay with us. Welcome back. Return of the Mac. You remember that song? That's a popular song from the 90s by Mark Morrison. Return of the Mac. Return of the Mac. Now, that song may not be synonymous with politics, but it's a song that aptly captures the latest development from the roller coaster that is the politics of Rivers State. The politics of Rivers State. Well, what has happened in Rivers State over the past few weeks and months can be put into a movie, and I know that the cinemas will be filled up to capacity for people who want to watch it. You can't write that script. Latest is that the Rivers State House of Assembly today ordered the 9 resignee commissioners who appeared before them again for screening, the second time, to take a bow and go. These are pictures from the Rivers State House of Assembly when they decamped, of course, to the APC from the PDP. And these members form what is now seen as the authentic Rivers State House of Assembly, since the other one, the Speaker, has resigned. Okay, so they have won the battle and they are in charge. Now, the commissioners who resigned from the cabinet of Rivers State Governor Timipre Sylva took a bold step to step aside in solidarity with the FCT minister, who is also the former governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. They had their names resubmitted by the current governor as part of the directives from Mr. President Bola Tinubu, which both men, Wike and Fubara, signed up to in order to bring an end to their political feud. Now, the 9 commissioners, widely believed to have been installed or put there by the former governor, are Zacchaeus Adongo. He was former Attorney General of Rivers State and Commissioner for Justice. Dr. Jacobson Mbina, Dr. Gift Walu, he had a portfolio of the Commissioner for Agriculture. He is an academic right there in Management Sciences, University of Port Harcourt, former chairman of a local government area, Obiakpo, that's Wike's local government area under Rotimi Amechi. And he moved over from the APC to the PDP. He might be moving back to the APC. Mrs. Inime Chinwewo Aguma, a relative of a former Attorney General of Rivers State, now deceased, may so rest in peace. Engineer Chukwuemeka Woke, also loyalist of Nyesom Wike, former Commissioner for Special Duties under Wike. Professor Prince Chinedu Mom, he's an academic a professor from the University of Port Harcourt. He's an environmentalist, a researcher, and he was Commissioner for Education under under Fubara. We have Dr. Dax Alaba George Kelly, former special advisor to Wike on special projects or special assistant, and later Commissioner for Works under Wike, who also metamorphosed into Commissioner under Fubara. Honorable Isaac Kamalu, former Commissioner for Finance. We have Engineer Austin Benchioma. Now, majority of them, like I've just said, were commissioners in Nyesom Wike's cabinet when he was governing. That's why some people believe that Wike put them there as part of his political structure in Rivers State. If you want to believe that, well, that's up to you. Now, during plenary today at the Harlow Chamber, which, by the way, the Rivers State House of Assembly is now located at the Legislative Quarters. That's the House of Assembly Quarters. Following, that's off Aba Port Harcourt Expressway, by the way, following the demolition of the Rivers State House of Assembly complex by the Rivers State government. In fact, we have it on record, on account rather, from our sources that the governor himself led the bulldozers to pull those buildings down. So they have had to sit at the hall of the legislative quarters so they can have their proceedings. The Speaker of the House, Martins Amehule, read the letter from Governor Sim Fubara requesting the screening and confirmation of the commissioner nominees. Now, there were doubts earlier in some quarters about the authenticity of that letter when the news broke, but today's activity probably puts rest to those rumors the governor wrote to the House of Assembly. Now, what remains to be seen is when the governor will swear them in, how the swearing will go, what he will tell them. How will the relationship between Governor Fubara and these 9 commissioners go? Bearing in mind, they stood by Nyesom Wike in this political feud between Fubara and Wike. It's getting more interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Evans Ufeli is a legal practitioner. He's our guest tonight. Evans, it's good to have you. Evans, I can assume you may have had, so I wouldn't blame you if you have had, cost to buy some popcorn, while all this River State, thing has been going on. But it's been quite dramatic. What's your reaction to today's development, Evans?
Well, what is going on in Rivers State is a clear testament to the fact that in Nigeria, politics is not about the people, but about the leaders in quotes. We started out from, this has been a long journey. We started out from when 27 members of the House of Assembly of Rivers State defected to another political party, PDP to APC, by virtue of what the law prescribed based on Section 109 of the Constitution. The penalty and the punishment for that action was on its way to fruition when Wike and the president of Nigeria, Tinubu, intervened with an agreement which technically set the Constitution aside. As if that illegality is not enough, they ordered the governor to go and start, a process of resubmitting a budget, representing a budget, and then the 9 commissioners that resigned in solidarity of Wike have now been called back. Remember, in all this, they are now being called back not because the governor of the state or the people want them back, but because the cabals in Rivers State, who also have been seconded by the president of Nigeria, want to ensure that.
All right, we seem to be having a bit of a network challenge with Evans's connection, but we will put Evans back on the air immediately. We can. But I mean, like he said, it's been quite interesting. He said the governor himself, these commissioners are not back because the governor wanted them back, but they are back because of the word he used was cabal in Rivers State. But some would say peace is priceless. You can't put a price on peace. And the governor of Rivers State, Sim Fubara himself, when he spoke at the Palmo University event some weeks ago, last month, said almost at the point of tears that there is no price that is too big to pay for peace. So maybe he's paying the price just to have peace in Rivers State. So the situation does not deteriorate into, full-scale violence because of the political feud between both gentlemen. Fubara himself, Wike had said some days ago when he was hosted by the former chairman of the People's Democratic Party in Rivers State, the man that is affectionately called Go Round by people in Rivers State, Brother Felix Obua, that's his title, Brother Felix Obua, he is a former chairman of PDP in Rivers State. He was the one who took over PDP to pave the way in Rivers State, to pave the way for Wike to emerge as a party's candidate in 2014. And so he's been quite instrumental to the rise of Nyesom Wike from a minister who had been sent to Abuja as some sort of political wilderness to become the governor of Rivers State, and now to have a structure where he's the sort of a Jagaban of Rivers State now. He paid him a visit in his local government area and his country home in a place called Omok in Rivers State, and he said, see, this man here, Felix Obua, is a strong politician. He could have been the next governor. The others who could have been the next governor. But I paved the way for an outsider in the person, I'm not quoting Wike now, but I'm just paraphrasing, in the person of Sim Fubara II, a political outsider, which actually Sim was, to be the governor. And this is what I'm getting. I want to say sorry to the people of Omok. I want to say sorry to someone like Go Round, that's Felix Obua, a very strong politician in Rivers State, has a large following, popular man at that. And indeed, Nyesom Wike is not wrong, because the names on people's lips, we didn't have the likes of Sim Fubara there. People were thinking about the likes of Felix Obua, the likes of Dax George Kelly, Alaba George Kelly. People were thinking of the likes of the secretary to the government of Rivers State and some other names who were out there who were strong politicians, but Sim got the job. But some would say, well, it's providence. That is the will of God for the man. Well, it remains to be seen. And the big question for me is Sim has said he wants peace. And of course, Wike is the one who literally campaigned for him to be there, carried or did most of the heavy lifting for him to be there, and celebrated more than anyone when Sim won the election. So, has Fubara let his supporters, his sympathizers down, by taking a step back for the sake of peace, is what we would like Evans to tell us. Evans, good to have you back. But before I go to that question I just asked, what sort of relationship do you expect Governor Sim Fubara? I don't know, I'm saying Governor Nyesom Wike. So it's a bit hard to even, not make that mistake. I'm sure you understand why. But what sort of relationship do you expect Governor Sim Fubara to have with the 9 commissioners? Sometimes you think he seems to be standing his ground. Other times he seems to be, yielding to the authority of Nyesom Wike. We really don't know where he stands. So what relationship do you think he'll have with the commissioners? Evans, do we have you back, please?
I'm back.
Oh, great. Did you hear the question?
I didn't get the question.
Okay, these commissioners resigned in solidarity with Nyesom Wike. Now they're back. They took sides. They took their stand. They made their stand clear. And they were ready to sacrifice their political privileges and positions to show their support and solidarity for Nyesom Wike. Now they're back in the cabinet of Sim Fubara. They will sit in the same room with him to discuss Rivers State, the policies and the governance. How will the relationship go? What sort of relationship do you think or expect the governor will have with them?
Well, I think they made a statement that their loyalty is to Wike and not to the sitting governor. And that is quite unfortunate. Unfortunate because they are going to be working with Fubara in terms of advancing democracy in that state, and not with Wike, who is in Abuja. So, but what they have done is the typical about politicians in Nigeria. they always want to be in the good book of their godfathers to ensure that there's continuity in their political future, so that after this tenure, after the tenure of Fubara, they can still use the so-called political powers of Wike to entrench themselves, maybe to become state house members or to retain themselves as commissioners in future, or possibly get the nodding of Wike to contest at the federal level and all that. So politics in Nigeria generally, it's never about the people. They drag the state backward by their very conduct. And the least we could have, or we should have, is to punish them adequately for the act of loyalty to a leader, a political leader who is not in government, who is not in the government of River State. But what you get today is they call it loyalty. And that loyalty, it does not matter whether it's to the detriment of the people or not. What is important to them is that their political future is ensured, that it's on record that they were loyal at the times when Wike was going through what he went through and all that. And for me, I think there's going to be a lot of rebellion in the course of their work with Fubara, because it's already established that they are not with him. And that is why I faulted Fubara, who said for the purpose of peace that there's no price that's too much to be paid, even though he has not gotten peace. The same peace he submitted to, the same peace he relinquished his authority to acquire, he has never acquired. Now, what he has are dissidents. These commissioners are dissidents. And these dissidents are the ones that are going to work with him. Okay? So there will be no trust whatsoever. There will be a lot of maneuvering and orchestrations. And these commissioners are clearly going to be feeding Wike about what is going on in the government. And Fubara and Wike will be using his influence, okay, to determine what happened in that state or not. And Fubara is just, for me, a ceremonial head. Wike is still the governor of River State. All
right, thank you. Evans, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we ask you a final question before we say goodbye. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back. Because of time, I'll just go straight to Evans asking the final question. Evans, I was going to ask you, Evans, a fairly legal practitioner, I was going to ask you, sir, if you were in the shoes of these commissioners, how will you conduct yourself? But you've already said that as far as you're concerned, you think they will be feeding Wike with information, and he's basically just going to be in control of the state, and that Governor Fubara is now basically ceremonial head. But some will say that Sim is just being a wise politician. Like he said, he still has the red pen in his hand or in his pocket. And he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. Evans, very briefly, please.
Well, there's a sense in which that can sink, because it is political battle. But if you look at the pedigree and the track record of Fubara, even though he made that statement that he's still with the pen and all that they wanted to take the pen, but he's still with him, his demeanor, he lacks the capacity, that demeanor to stand in the midst of this kind of crisis, because at every test in time, he cowed down. There were people who have made statements like he wants to possibly have his case in court cleared with before he will act. And I said that does not mean anything. The court does not. It doesn't mean anything. I don't think that's the issue. I think this is a man that have submitted to godfatherism. This is a man that have submitted to pressure. That's how I see it. Okay, I don't see him coming up from now, because the truth is this. Now he has surrounded himself with the enemies. Okay, in all sides. Even the one man who was at the House of Assembly, who actually was on his side strongly, who could fight for him and all that, and resigned, and they have not been made a chief of staff, a position that is not even recognized by the Constitution. So for me, I don't see him, rocking the boat and standing the test of what is ahead of him, because Wike had made that statement, a subtle threat that when the time comes, we'll know who's in charge. And he has said that not too long ago. And that, for me, stipulates the fact that in the days to come, the parties are still going to be warring. But at that time, I think Fubara would have lost it technically. I know that the said commissioners, he can reshuffle his cabinet and change them and all that. They still have the power to so do. But how about the 27th at the House of Assembly? That's a huge quorum that can take him down on impeachment.
So
you see that he's just surrounded by enemies.
All right. It's quite a tight situation Fubara has himself in. And don't know if those who came out to support him will be having second thoughts if he tries to, show his power again. Anyway, Ivan Sufeli, legal practitioner, it's been a pleasure having you. Thanks for doing justice to this latest development from Rivers State. And thanks for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
And that's the size of our package. We'll keep our eyes on Rivers State because this movie or this series is still ongoing and the season has not yet ended. My name is Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ returns tomorrow, same time. Good night.